August 31st, 1985, East Los Angeles. A man is running. He is cutting through yards, vaulting fences, stumbling over trash cans in the morning heat. His boots hit the pavement wrong and he almost goes down. He catches himself, keeps running. Behind him, not police, not detectives, not anyone with a badge or a radio or a gun, just people, neighbors. A 55-year-old man named Faustino Piñon who was working on his Mustang in his backyard when a stranger jumped the fence and tried to steal it. A woman named Angelica de la Torre on her way to buy birthday gifts for her 3-year-old daughter who had a man grab her out of her own car on her own street. Her husband, Manuel, who grabbed a metal bar and ran, then others, then more. An entire neighborhood filling the street behind one man. For 14 months, California was terrified of this man. Now he is terrified of them. And the question isn't who he is. The question is how one man, a drifter with no job, no address, no plan, turned an entire state into something that looked like a city under siege.
I think most humans have in them the capacity to commit murder. They choose not to, not because they are morally superior as they so commonly claim.
Start with what people remember. The locks. That's always the first thing. People suddenly aware of their locks in a way they had never been before. Checking them before bed, getting up at 2 a.m. to check them again. Hardware stores in Los Angeles selling deadbolts faster than they could stock them. Gun shops with lines out the door. A Los Angeles Times poll from the summer of 1985 found that nearly half of all respondents had changed their daily behavior because of one name, the Night Stalker. They didn't know who he was. That was the problem. There was no face, no profile anyone could explain cleanly, just a name the newspapers gave to something that felt like it was everywhere and nowhere at once. Neighborhood watch programs across the San Gabriel Valley reported membership doubling in weeks. People were sleeping with baseball bats beside their beds. Couples were taking turns staying awake. A reverend in one Los Angeles suburb told the Times his congregation was terrified. Elderly women in his parish afraid to sleep. The television news couldn't stop covering it, which made it worse, which made the television news cover it more. By the summer of 1985, the Night Stalker wasn't just a criminal investigation, he was a presence. But here is the thing about mass fear. It rarely arrives all at once. It builds. And to understand how California got to that summer, to understand how the fear got that large, you have to go back to where it started, which wasn't where anyone expected, and wasn't connected at first to anything.
The so-called Night Stalker may have struck again.
No matter where we were, there was a report about Night Stalker.
June 28, 1984, Glassell Park, Los Angeles. It is late. The neighborhood is quiet. Jenny Vincow is 79 years old. She lives alone. Her apartment is small and warm and familiar, the kind of space a person arranges over decades without thinking about it. A lamp here, a chair there, the window left open because summer in Los Angeles doesn't cool down much after dark. She goes to sleep. Sometime in the night, the screen on that window is cut from outside. When investigators arrive the next morning, they find her. She has been stabbed repeatedly. Her throat cut so deeply she is nearly decapitated. Evidence of sexual assault. On the window screen, a fingerprint. The case is logged. No clear suspect, no obvious motive, no connection to anything else. Is this a random murder? That is what the case looks like. That is what it gets filed as. 9 months pass. March 27, 1985. Whittier, 12 miles southeast of Glassell Park. A different city, a different police department. Vincent Zazzara is asleep in his bed. He is 64 years old. His wife Maxine is asleep beside him. The house is dark and still. A window opens. Someone is inside. Vincent Zazzara is shot in the head before he wakes up. Maxine wakes to the sound of the gunshot. What happens next? Investigators will piece together slowly and reluctantly from the evidence left in that bedroom. She is stabbed repeatedly. Her eyes are removed and taken from the scene. When detectives process the yard outside, they find a shoe print in the dirt, a men's Avia sneaker, size 11.5, an unusual brand. They photograph it and note it in the file. Different victims, different neighborhoods, different crime scenes. The Vinkow murder was a stabbing of an elderly woman in her apartment. This is a couple, a gun, a knife, something that looks almost ritualistic in its violence. Are these crimes even connected? The honest answer, in March of 1985, is that nobody knows. Nobody is looking at both files at the same time. Nobody has a reason to. Then the calls keep coming. Another house, another city. A woman shot outside her own front door, the bullet ricocheting off the keys in her hand. Her roommate shot dead inside. An hour later, another woman pulled from her car on a Monterey Park street and shot. 2 locations. One night, 3 victims, then another attack, another city, then another. The pace is accelerating, the geography is spreading, and every department receiving these calls is working its own case, looking at its own evidence, building its own picture. Nobody is building the whole picture. If this was one killer, and investigators are not yet certain it is, why couldn't anybody find him? Put the crime locations on a map: Glassell Park, Rosemead, Monterey Park, Whittier, Monrovia, Sun Valley, Burbank, and later San Francisco, twice, which pulls the Bay Area into a panic so acute that the city's mayor holds a press conference and releases confidential case details publicly just to try to calm the streets. It doesn't work. The locations don't cluster. They don't follow a route. They scatter, east, north, south, across a geography so wide that no single department can be expected to see it all. And that is the machinery behind the invisibility. In 1985, Los Angeles County contains dozens of separate law enforcement agencies. The LAPD, the Sheriff's Department. Municipal departments in Monterey Park, Whittier, Rosemead, each operating with its own chain of command, its own files, its own priorities. They share information when they think to share it, when it occurs to them. When the connection is already obvious enough to act on, the connection is not obvious, not yet, not to anyone looking at only one part of the map. Then something stranger surfaces. In February and March of 1985, a series of children disappear across Montebello, Monterey Park, and Glassell Park. All of them are returned. All of them have been sexually assaulted. One of them is 6 years old, a girl named Anastasia Hronas. She gives investigators a description of the man who took her. One homicide detective working the accumulating murder cases reads that description and goes still. It sounds familiar. The height, the build, the dark hair, the details that keep appearing across witness accounts from neighborhoods miles apart and months apart. Is the killer also abducting children? The question gets written down. It gets carried into meetings. It sits uncomfortably alongside everything else that doesn't fit neatly into a single case file or a single department's jurisdiction. Other witnesses are coming forward now too. A woman who survived an attack in Rosemead, a man whose wife was killed in Sun Valley. Survivors from different cities, different months, describing their encounters to different departments. When investigators begin laying those descriptions side by side, carefully across jurisdictional lines, through the slow process of comparing notes that were never designed to be compared, a picture starts to form. Tall, thin, but strong. Dark hair. The teeth, which multiple survivors mention specifically. The severe decay, the smell. An accent from somewhere in Texas. A stillness during the attacks that several survivors describe as more frightening than anger would have been. They have shoe prints, witnesses. Composite sketches that are close but not yet sharp enough to be certain, but still no name, still no address, still no answer to the question that has been building since the beginning. How can somebody leave this many clues, across this many cities over this many months, and remain completely unknown? The killer is everywhere. Nobody knows who he is. Then the media names it, the Night Stalker. It appears in print in the summer of 1985, and within days it is everywhere. The Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, the Times, the evening newscasts that open each night with the latest attack, the latest victim, the latest police statement that amounts to, "We are working on it." The name does something months of factual reporting had not managed. It gives the fear a shape. Before the name, people were afraid of something vague. After the name, they are afraid of a character, something with intention, something that operates at night specifically, which means every night becomes different. The dark outside the window that used to be ordinary is no longer ordinary. Police hold press conferences intended to reassure. They have the opposite effect. When a police chief stands at a podium and says, "We are doing everything possible," what the audience hears is, "We have not caught him." By the time the Night Stalker name is in wide circulation, the attacker has struck more than a dozen times across 2 metropolitan areas and killed at least 10 people. At crime scenes, investigators find satanic symbols, a pentagram left on a bedroom wall, victims forced at gunpoint to swear allegiance to Satan before he leaves. The symbols mean nothing operationally, but in the newspapers they become the story's architecture, a framework onto which fear can be hung and held. He is not hiding, he is moving, and the question forming, inside police departments, in newsrooms, in living rooms, is not just who is doing this, it is whether anyone has actually seen him. Lily Doy is asleep in her home in Monterey Park. The house is dark. The neighborhood is quiet. This is the kind of quiet that feels normal, until it doesn't. She wakes to something wrong. Before she can make sense of it, there is a man in her home. He is standing close. She sees his face, the dark hair, the eyes, the teeth, up close in a way no composite sketch had yet captured. She survives. Afterward, sitting across from investigators, she describes what she saw, every detail she held onto in the dark. She does not know it yet, but she is building something that several other survivors are also building. From different houses, different cities, different nights. Without knowing the others exist, what did she see that nobody else had seen yet? Whitney Bennett is 16 years old. She is asleep in her bedroom in Sierra Madre when the attack begins. A tire iron, her own bedroom. She is beaten unconscious and left for dead. She survives, and when she recovers enough to speak, when investigators sit with her and ask her carefully to walk back through it, she describes a face, not from a distance, not glimpsed through a window. She was close. Close enough that the image stays. Investigators carry her description back to the others. Lily Doy's account, Whitney Bennett's account, accounts from other survivors across the map. They are starting to match. The cheekbones, the eyes, the teeth. The particular way several survivors describe the same flatness, the absence of emotion during the attacks that was somehow more frightening than rage would have been. The picture is sharpening, but is it sharp enough to find him? August 24th, 1985, Mission Viejo. Bill Carnes is asleep. His fiancée, Inez Erickson, is asleep beside him. The house is quiet, not unusual quiet. Just the ordinary silence of a suburban neighborhood after midnight. Then Inez hears something, a sound she cannot place. For a moment, she thinks Bill has rolled over in his sleep. Then she hears it again. Movement. Inside the room. She opens her eyes. There is a man standing beside the bed. Before either of them can react, the gun goes off. Bill Carnes is shot 3 times in the head. He collapses. Inez is suddenly awake in a room that no longer makes sense. A stranger is in her home, in her bedroom, holding a gun. He ties her. He assaults her. He takes what valuables he can find and forces her, at gunpoint, to swear her love to Satan. Before he leaves, he says, "Tell them the Night Stalker was here." Then he walks out the front door. Inez Erickson, alone in the dark, tied, gets herself to the window. She watches the car he drives away in. She locks the make and color and shape of it into her memory with the same quiet desperation that someone uses when they know a detail might matter later. She is right. It will. When investigators arrive, Inez Erickson gives them two things: a description of the man, more detailed, more certain than almost anything they have assembled before, and a description of the car. Bill Carnes is taken to a hospital. Surgeons remove the bullets. He survives. For the first time in 14 months, investigators have something they have not had before. The Night Stalker is no longer just a feeling, no longer just a name in a newspaper or a shoe print in the dirt outside a murdered couple's home. He has a face, and somebody has seen it clearly enough to lead police directly to his door. August 24th, 1985, Mission Viejo, 50 miles south of Los Angeles. After the attack on Bill Carnes and Inez Erickson, a 13-year-old boy named James Romero comes forward. He had been awake that night and had seen the car, a bright orange 1976 Toyota, moving strangely through the neighborhood. He had written down part of the license plate. The Toyota is found 4 days later, abandoned in Wilshire. Investigators know the car is connected to the Night Stalker. They process it with a laser device and find something. One fingerprint on the rearview mirror. He missed one spot. Now, here is where it gets interesting. In 1984, when investigators found a fingerprint on Jenny Vinsau's window screen, the very first murder, the technology to run it against a database did not yet exist in Los Angeles County. The comparison would have required manual labor against thousands of paper cards. It was logged and largely set aside. By 1985, something new exists, a computer fingerprint matching system. Investigators submit the print from the Toyota's mirror. The system runs a comparison. It returns a name: Richard Munoz Ramirez, 25 years old, El Paso, Texas. In the system, not because of any violent crime, because of minor arrests, traffic violations, drug possession, a stolen car charge in late 1984 for which a judge, citing procedural concerns, had released him before trial. He had been arrested, fingerprinted, released. And then the killing continued. Investigators pull his DMV photograph. They put it in front of survivors. Somkid Kovananth identifies him immediately. Inez Erickson identifies him. Other witnesses confirm it. 14 months of terror collapse into one face. Now the question is where he is. August 30th, 1985. The photograph is released. Every major newspaper in California runs it on the front page. Every television station leads with it. His face is in convenience stores, gas stations, laundromats. Radio stations describe him between songs. Richard Ramirez does not know any of this. He has been visiting his brother in Tucson, Arizona. No television. He has not been reading newspapers. He boards a Greyhound bus back to Los Angeles, arrives at the downtown bus terminal, and walks into a convenience store on Town Avenue. He reaches for a Spanish-language newspaper, the newspaper that has been running his photograph for 2 days. He sees his own face on the cover. He runs. But the city he is running into is not the city he left. Every face he passes has seen the photograph. He runs east. He crosses the Los Angeles River. He reaches Hubbard Street in the Hollenbeck neighborhood of East Los Angeles. He jumps the fence into Faustino Piñon's backyard and tries to take the Mustang sitting there with its engine running. Piñon fights him off. Ramirez runs. He spots Angelica de la Torre on the opposite side of the street and tries to pull her out of her car. Her husband Manuel comes out of the house with a metal bar and strikes him. Ramirez goes down, gets up, runs. But the street is alive now. Jose Burgoyne chasing him. Burgoyne's sons, neighbors coming out of houses having heard the noise. Someone spots him and calls out. The call travels down the block and then the next one. He begs for water at one house, abandons his knapsack at another, cannot turn a corner without someone recognizing him. According to the police commander who later reviewed the capture, alert citizens were reporting the suspect every step of the way. He is cornered, he is beaten, metal bars, pruning shears, fists. He is on the ground on Hubbard Street when a sheriff's patrol car finally arrives and officers pull the crowd back. Richard Ramirez is not caught by a task force, not by a database, not by any of the agencies that had been hunting him for over a year. He is caught by a 55-year-old man who was working on his car on a Saturday morning and decided that the stranger in his backyard was not going to take it. And then by everyone else on the street who agreed. The trial begins in July 1988 and runs for over a year. Ramirez fires lawyers, represents himself at intervals, delays proceedings at every opportunity. He raises his hand for photographers and shows them a pentagram drawn on his palm. At his sentencing on November 7, 1989, he turns to face the courtroom audience and grins. He says, "Death always comes with the territory. I'll see you in Disneyland." 13 counts of murder, 19 death sentences. He dies on death row on June 7, 2013, of B-cell lymphoma at age 53. No execution is ever carried out. The documentaries come, the books, the Netflix series. Each generation finds the story again and cannot quite put it down. Maybe because of what the story actually is underneath all the crime scene photographs and court records and composite sketches. It is a story about an unlocked window. Not one specific window, the idea of one. The gap between the life people believed they were living, safe neighborhood, quiet street, locks on the doors, and the life that was actually available to them on the other side of that assumption. For 14 months, millions of Californians went to bed and checked their locks, then got up and checked them again. Some of them still do, not because Richard Ramirez is still out there, but because once you've learned that the window you forgot to lock is the only thing that stood between your life and something that does not care about your life at all, it is very hard to forget that. The locks stayed. Some things do.